So I think we may slowly start. I will confirm one by one when our participants will join. Dear friends, dear colleagues, I am happy to welcome you today on our meeting with WTTC, or World Travel and Tourism Council, which is the global leader for tourism, not only for business, but also for governments and for NGOs all over the world who do a lot of activities in promotion of our sector and analyzing our sector, in giving different tools for our sector. And it's a big honor for us that today we have Vice President of WTTC, Mrs. Lola Karenas, who visited us, and also Chris Imson, who is also with us. He will not speak, but he will be with us and maybe answering some questions as well as Lola. The objective of today's meeting, as I said, we will have this meeting all in English for better understanding each other with our guests. And main objective of this meeting is presentation of 10 protocols which were developed by WTTC globally. And this global initiative was spread it all over the world through communication channels of WTTC, and had a big response from different countries and different business organizations, different NGOs and destination marketing organizations and management organizations. And Ukraine also joined this initiative because we see and we understand, not looking on different recommendations and protocols which are published by the ministry and by the governments, we need some global standards. We need global standards which will be accepted and approved by our sector, by our partners abroad. And it is important, especially for tour operators and for accommodations, for direct tourism sector companies, that their foreign partners understand the same standards of safety, the same quality standards, the same security standards. And all this gives us insurance of high performance of tourism from Ukraine. 2020 brought us into new reality, and believe we or not believe, this new reality as never before makes important sustainability, makes important the quality, makes important safety and security measures. And tourism and hospitality industry must be the leader who push other sectors, other industries to provide these standards and provide these new protocols. Nobody knows in the world, and we can see it in different meetings and international forums today, that nobody has answers. Nobody has, there are many questions, but nobody has answers when and how all that will be finished. But we are definitely sure that it will be never in the future like before. One of our core activities of National Tourism Organization of Ukraine is development and implementation of standards. Today in our quality system, in cooperation with technical committees on standardization, we have more than 40 standards. These standards work for all types of companies in the value chain of tourism product, which means that these standards are applicable for tour operators, for travel agents, for guides, tourist guides, for accommodations, for beaches, tourism information centers, adventure tourism, industrial tourism, rural tourism, and different other industries which are involved in all our value chain. developed by WTTC 10 protocols, which cover mostly all of what I called, which means airlines, airports, tour operators, accommodations, retail, tourist retail, outdoor retail, MICE and exhibition and convention businesses, insurance, no, not insurance.
Attractions.
Yeah, Lola, I will leave it to you to call all the protocols which you developed. These protocols really will help to any type of the businesses to provide these standards and to implement physical distancing in their offices and their facilities, to implement necessary information for the staff, necessary information for their clients, to implement queue management, cleaning and disinfection on schedule and by time, to provide new digital instruments for contactless check-in, check-outs, for cashless, and so on. So all this is important, and even more important that this product of protocols, which was developed by WTTC, also has a marketing tool, which is safety, which is Safe Travels stamp, and this mark, this stamp, is a perfect marketing tool which helps to promote these protocols, which helps to understand for clients and for partners who correspond to these protocols, and we're happy to promote and popularize this global initiative of WTTC in Ukraine. Now, Lola, the floor is yours, and you're welcome to share your screen and show the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ivan, and thank you all, and thank you, Ukraine, for endorsing and embracing the protocols. Let me just share the screen. Okay. Can you see it?
Yes.
Let me just share it better.
You may just put it full
screen. You see
screen.
it better now, right?
Yeah, very good.
Great. So what we thought, Chris and myself will just, probably for those who are not familiar with WTTC, we represent the global private sector of travel and tourism. So we represent over 200 of the most influential companies around the world, and we cover all geographies. So our membership is quite balanced. We represent 30%, it's in Europe, 30% in the Americas, 30% in Asia, and the 10% in the rest of the world. And we cover all segments or sectors in the value chain. So from airports to airlines and GDSs, OTAs, tour operators, travel companies, and even industry partners as IBM or Google. So, you know, the whole value chain of travel and tourism. And we were created, actually, this is our 30th anniversary. So this year has marked, we have not been able to celebrate as we wanted, but we exist already for 30 years, and we were born to really speak with one voice to over 185 governments worldwide. So, what we do, I mean, core and the backbone of what we do is research. We do research of the impact of travel and tourism in the world economies and GDP. And so we really see from these figures on the top line of the chart that 2019 was a very successful year. So that was, of course, these are pre-COVID numbers. And so for the 9th consecutive year, travel and tourism outpaced the growth of global economy. So the sector represents globally 10.3%. And something even more important and that we love highlighting is actually the human factor. And the sector employs 330 million people globally. That means 1 out of 10 jobs in the planet. And the figure that we like the most and that we used to like the most is like 1 out of 4 of the new jobs for the past 5 years have actually been in our sector. So that with these very valuable information, we take this to all governments to reinforce and highlight the importance of our sector to the economies of the world. And so, of course, we also look at the spread international versus domestic, and the business versus leisure. Of course, international and domestic now, especially with the COVID-19, probably the fact that the first, opening up of the business will be very much domestic. Those actually having a bigger percentage on domestic might, be favored, and that I think is the case in Ukraine. These are like the figures we have for Ukraine. So it's like a 5.9% of GDP contribution and 6.2 of employment. But something really interesting, and I think you guys, the real economy growth was at 3.5%, but you grew at 6.1. So you must be doing something right to keep the sector growing at a bigger pace than the real economy. So and then of course you have like I think around 71% domestic versus international, which probably you will be able to benefit now as we get out of the COVID crisis. Now, part of what we do, as I said, on the backbone is really research, and we've been doing research on many different areas and segments. We launched a report actually in November last year on crisis. Actually, we went through 90 different crises in the past 20 years, and it is true that our sector is impacted by many crises, be it natural, be it terrorist attacks, as we've seen in different parts of the world, be it political instability. And the good news is that following the report, we have been able to recover at a faster pace, and with 10 years, and so we're recovering faster. Of course, when governments are putting in place the right measures and the right policies, that helps the industry recover. And of course, we are a very resilient sector, so we will recover from this one, of course. And this has been an unprecedented crisis, so we will recover, that's for sure. But we need to learn from the past, and so this crisis is, we say, 5 times bigger than the financial crisis we had. And 9/11, we had a very slow pace of recovery. I think it took like 4 years to recover from 9/11. Probably a lack of public-private cooperation and collaboration. That's why we really think that is really crucial, that the public speaks to the private and that we will go hand in hand. And a good example of a coordinated approach was the 2008 financial crisis and G20, the G20 platform that was created to actually accelerate the recovery. And there we saw, like, in 18 years, we could get out, and so that shows also the importance of this private-public cooperation. And then, of course, we need to learn from the past. I mean, with SARS, MERS, and Ebola, we were able to travel even without a vaccine. Of course, we are in a different scenario, in a different reality right now, but there we were isolating sick people, and so that's why we think, actually, and we'll see that in the next slide, we see that how technology can help us with these, and to help us being able to travel even when we have no vaccine for the moment. So very briefly, we wanted to share with you the 4 key principles that we've been advocating with to governments. And I mean, this is something, it's part of the work that we do, is we speak to governments, and we try to make them work together. We want to really reestablish effective operations, and we want to remove barriers. We want to reopen borders and resume travel as soon as possible. Of course, in a safe and secure way. That it's paramount. And so we've been calling governments to scrap quarantine measures, or measures that are going to make it difficult to move around, especially now that we are resuming travel and that we are lifting restrictions in many countries, of course, and that was the case in the UK, obviously, and we have seen how countries have been creating these like green corridors or bubbles as well, taking into consideration, of course, the medical aspect, the tourism, the importance of travel and tourism in the country, and of course the political willingness, etc. So we see that as crucial and key, and cooperation and collaboration, and then of course digitalization. You know, we want to enhance the already existing seamless travel journey experience by adding the health component to it, and this is something that we have been actually working very much on the seamless traveler experience, and now more and more anything that is touchless and digitalized will be preferred. And so we see a world before the vaccine, of course, and after the vaccine, and so we need to really integrate where possible all this like testing, contact tracing, and so it's going to be really key to the travel journey of the passenger. And so with, you know, and airports and airlines and tour operators, and then of course that leads us to really the adoption of these global health and safety protocols that Ivan was referring to. And we thought, and we think, and we will go a little bit more in detail now, it's really very important that we rebuild the consumer trust and the confidence in travel, and they need to feel that travel is safe, and we need to really, I mean, people want to travel, they really look forward to traveling, but they want to do it in a secure and in a safe way. And we thought that by adopting global health and safety protocols, these would help people, these would help travelers, consumers to really move around and feel that they are doing so in a safe way, and that they can trust the establishments they are visiting. So the fourth principle we call for, before going into the protocols, is really government support. We've been calling governments for support from the beginning of the crisis, and we've been evolving with them. So it's really continued support and fiscal incentives. We saw the great example of the UK yesterday with the VAT reduction for us, and so we really need to continue protecting the many millions of people that depend on the sectors, and so to continue and to promote travel and tourism. Now, this leads me to the safe travels protocols that we launched in May. And so really, as I said, the end stage is very much to ensure we do everything possible to build travelers' confidence. And so we need to provide them with the certainty that they need. And so we have been creating these baseline guidelines with our members, and many of them had experience for, you know, hospitality, having been hospitals themselves. So they are very well positioned to actually welcome people in a safe and clean environment, with governments, of course, with health experts from, you know, CDC guidelines, WHO, and all the industry associations globally. So from IATA and ACI, tour operators, travel agents, you know, European ones, and international level. And so we really wanted to bring everyone together, and we managed to do that. So with the really to optimize the sector recovery efforts, yes, and again to rebuild the trust and confidence of the traveler. We launched. Now we've launched 9 protocols. So as you rightly mentioned, Ivan, so we had protocols launched for hospitality, for outdoor retail, for aviation, airports, tour operators, MICE and attractions, car rentals, and short-term rentals, so like the Airbnb, etc. of this world. And so they are actually divided in 4 pillars. So it's like we have the more operational and the staff preparedness. So with the prevention plans, the list of tasks that they need to prepare, the cleanliness, the sanitation, the disinfection, and the staff protection equipment. And then, of course, the second pillar would be really in making sure that there is a safe experience. So making sure that you have the control capacity of spaces, and the signaling, so that you maintain and you respect the physical distancing, and then, of course, the importance, as I mentioned, of rebuilding trust. So it's really like the clear, consistent, and transparent communication, yes, through all channels possible, and then, of course, the confidence that we've been really speaking about. And for this confidence and to identify the establishments actually that who implemented those protocols. So for the traveler, we designed the Safe Travel stamp, so the Safe Travels by WTTC, and this was meant originally for members, for the establishment itself, but more and more destinations worldwide were asking us, like, can we embrace it? We want to, make them ours. We want to really endorse the protocols, endorse the stamp. EU and WTO has endorsed them, and now many destinations worldwide have signed up, and so they are being recognized by this great stamp. Of course, Ukraine, you went even a mile beyond and forward with the translation of all the protocols, which has been great, and you are the one then providing your private sector with a safe stamp. So we're really grateful and thrilled and flattered that you've went so fast, and we've had a great cooperation with you and your team for this. So we're really flattered and very happy, because this was actually the meaning and the whole objective with the creation of the protocols, to have really the alignment of the global private sector within the destinations. And in the end of the day, as I say, it's like, no matter if you are in Alicante or Barcelona, which are also cities that have endorsed the stamp, or in Odessa or Dubai, but you are sharing, you know that you have a baseline, a protocol that it's being guaranteed, and so that is very important. And so here is just an example. I mean, and Chris can confirm this, is in the everyday job of the how many destinations we get every day wanting to get the stamp and endorse it. So these are just some examples, from Portugal to Dubai, Egypt, Kenya, and well, in Spain, many different cities, like from Madrid, and we have Turkey, Vienna, Ontario, Jordan. So you see there is really a very wide variety of destinations and ongoing. So this is today it's probably obsolete. So I'm missing many more of these logos in here. And so with this, I will leave you with all this information. I'm very happy to share the crisis report I referred to, provide more information on anything. You have our economic data, and I'm very happy to take any questions together with Chris as well. And we are here to help, and we will continue our cooperation for sure in the near future, in the new normal. Thank you very much. I think you're muted, Ivan.
Ivan, you're on mute.
Yes. I think you are still muted. Can you hear us, Ivan? Okay, I think there was I don't know if anyone else can hear me. I am happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. I haven't any question. I think Ivan can't speak now.
That's fine. We get some time. We're not in a rush, and we're here amongst friends. So I see some activity in the chat. Greetings from the wine and taste route of the Ukrainian Bessarabia. Great. Thank you. Thank you for taking part of today's meeting. It's really, as I said, a pleasure being able to share with all of you the work that we've been doing, the work that we do on a daily basis. This is just a little bit of an example of our activity. We do have a lot of research, a lot of data that we share, and it's been an incredible journey having to cope with this crisis. And as I said, we see something that I would like to mention as well is the fact that digitalization has come to stay, but also sustainability. And probably these two are going to be two of the pillars that we see now coming to stay within the travel and tourism industry. This has been accelerated probably, and we have a great opportunity now to make travel and tourism even better now. And so we want to see always the glass full rather than half empty, like half full, and use this as an opportunity for sustainable growth, and that digitalization becomes part of this growth of the sector.
Yeah, well, I'm back. I'm sorry, my computer was off. Something happened and I had to reload it. Thank you very much. I've heard all of your presentation, and I think that all our colleagues as well. It's a great to understand that Ukraine was one of the first destinations who supported your initiative, and we were quite on time in translation into Ukrainian, which will help a lot to different representatives of our sector, especially for those who are based in rural territories, and not all of them are familiar with English, and it will help them to provide this knowledge and provide these standards. So before we had this presentation today, we had several discussions with our partners, with our companies, especially tour operators of inbound to Ukraine. And we have here with us Maria Yukhnovets, who is the head, the president of the Association of Inbound Tour Operators. Maria, are you with us? Because we have, can you hear us? Maria? I'm trying to find the within participants. Yes, she's here. Maria Yukhnovets, she represents Association of Inbound Tour Operators, and it's 35 or now more inbound companies who actually work for promotion of Ukraine and all its regions for foreign markets. Maria, I would like to give you the floor for some questions to Lola and Chris.
Well, first of all, it's good to see you all. Thank you for inviting us. We would love to join and hear the detail of this project that now a lot of travel companies and are interested in, let's say. At the moment, the questions that are important for us at travel companies Ivan, maybe you can help me. I mean, we discussed it before. Tell me, to your own opinion, which are the priorities, the positive signs if the local Ukrainian companies will use this stamp, will use this sign. I mean, the priorities in Ukraine, which, what can be positive moments for us using this sign?
I think as I mean, in Ukraine and elsewhere, the fact that I think people need to feel secure and confident that there is a fear, you know, they want to travel, but there is a fear to travel because they don't know what to expect. And so having and explaining in your language, I think it's great that you're actually adapting to their language. And as you say, like not everyone is acquainted with English, and speaking the language and explaining to them, listen, if you come to an, you know, hospitality, or if you go to an airport, or if you go elsewhere, you will have, you know, we will ensure with this stamp that there is a minimum guaranteed. So there is a baseline that is guaranteed on sanitation, on, as I mentioned, the signaling of like physical distancing, and that they have put in place the protocols and measures. I think just the fact that the establishment has been thinking about that, implementing those protocols and measures, makes people feel secure. I mean, it's like, it's just think of yourself as well. It's like the more preparedness you see, the safer you feel, or you feel that they are serious and professional. And I think that is what the traveler needs now. Domestic plays a very important role in Ukraine. 70% of your travel is domestic, according to our figures, and feel free to challenge those as well. But I think there is a great opportunity to really showcase that it's safe, that Ukraine is open for business, and that you are safe for people to visit the wonderful destinations that you have within Ukraine. I don't know if Chris would like to make any addition, since you've been really.
I have short additional part of question in such case. Basically, of course, we understand that this is showing the safety, showing the quality, but at the same moment, tell me please, how do you consider the control of keeping all these standards? For example, if the travel company accept these standards, which he can find in the protocol, how can you be sure that he keep all these standards, and taking this safety stamp, he for sure will provide all the moment that this protocol consists of?
Chris, you want to take that one also with the compliance of the protocols and
Sure.
guaranteeing compliance, actually?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think that is a very good question. First of all, just on the first question, I think that Lola was very right when she talked about boosting confidence amongst travelers. That's absolutely key at this stage. And there's also this very important factor that we consider here, because we've seen it in previous crises, which happens when there's a lot of top-down processes that are made in silos in different places, and they create a confusion, and you have different standards, different protocols in different places, and it makes let's call it a disjointed traveler experience. We want a seamless traveler experience, and this is why we thought it was very important that the industry unites at once in order to develop the standards, the protocols that they consider are appropriate, and place those for governments to consider and to adopt. Because these are what we don't want to do, is put in costly procedures that hamper business at a time when businesses really need to run as smoothly as possible and get operations going with the least problems possible. This is a very, very stressful time for most tourism businesses. So we need to make this something that is rational, balancing health concerns with real business needs. Now, on the question of compliance, we are not, it's very important to know that this is not a certification. This is based on self-assessment. And according to our terms and conditions, anyone that takes on these protocols has to ensure their own ongoing compliance with them. Now, we have to trust that companies wish to do this. Now, there may always be cases of abuse. That can always happen. But we believe that the overall impact is a positive one because it does serve as guidance and it does help to make travel safer. Now, we also make it very clear in our terms and conditions that this does not remove the risk of infection or COVID, but our goal here is to make travel safer. And that is what we're aiming to do. And also, I would just like to add one point that we are now in the process of reviewing our own processes, and we're aiming to hand much more power over to our national counterparts, let's say the state levels, the public destination authorities, to ensure compliance from their side. Because we are one small international body, we can't control the entire private sector of the world. So we're hoping on Ivan's ongoing collaboration, and it's been a pleasure to work with him so far, and he's been very engaging, and the work that he's done with the protocols and what he has done online has been absolutely fantastic. So thank you so much for that. And we count on Ivan and his team to work with all of you to ensure that you're following these protocols.
That was very important question for me, for all, for example, the travel companies, as I represent the Association of Incoming Tour Operators, the fact of this control of keeping these standards, because otherwise having this stamp and not keep these standards can hurt the authority of the sign and having it. Otherwise, it should be at least control on the level of, I agree, of course, on the level of the country which implement this sign, but at least it should be in some case, definitely.
If I may, this is a philosophic and really important issue, which is not only now existing since we have this stamp, travel safety stamp. Several times we already discussed this issue within our industry when we discussed the changes into our law, and I hope that this year we will change our main tourism law of Ukraine regarding the implementation of declaration principle in different subsectors of tourism industry, which means today we have on the level of our government regulation of activity of tour operators, and they are under licensing procedure, and we have a system of categorization of accommodations, hotels, also by the government. And both of these instruments of governmental regulation do not work since last, I would say, 10 years minimum. When I say that it doesn't work, it means that government, which is represented all the time by different bodies and different ministries, do not have tools to control compliance and correspondence to license conditions and standards, even if it's written in the law, which makes the whole system of governmental regulation so-called fake regulation. And all understand, the sector itself and government itself all understand that system of control and regulation do not work. When we talk about standards implementation, and this is policy of International Standard Organization, ISO, and all other national standard organizations, that any kind of standards, when we talk about different industries, all of it just to help companies to fulfill competitiveness and requirements of the some particular industry, and to compete on the market if they want to compete. If they don't want to compete, it's a voluntary. They may lose. They may not correspond to it, and that's it. And which means that social responsibility in our transparent world becomes very normal. And if some company do not have this feeling what is important exactly now, and is not trying to provide these standards, as well as now these safety standards and safety protocols, they have risk that their customers, their clients will inform much faster each other about their not correspondence to standards and protocols than any other controller, any other certification body, or any other government and other authority. Which means that Booking.com, TripAdvisor, other reviews which work are now more informative and faster than any other controller. That's why I think that this initiative of WTTC, which do not have any certification procedure, is a very good example how in new reality business should be responsible for its level of quality and level of performance. And that just the global scale of this project gives to all industry understanding equal rules and equal frame where we go, and all understand each other on the same language. And I think that we do not have to try to certify this process. We just want to have maybe small in the beginning, but part of our industry who understand this and who provide this. And if we will have 10% of our industry who provide these protocols and provide these standards, I believe that the rest 90% will follow it.
Okay, this is a very good answer, but as I said before, I personally, I really agree that this fact of personal social responsibility is something very special that now travel industry need. But the question was because I'm from Ukraine, and that makes sense. And you really mentioned before that at the moment we should realize that we have lots of problems, as you mentioned before, and maybe this the implementation of this stamp should push us, our government, to start this controlling procedure that you told before. It's like making first step in this direction. That's my opinion.
Being part of our government for some period of time, I can tell you that I don't have any belief that government may control such things. And I'm sure that if we will avoid any governmental influence on this project, it will work better within just business community. And my personal feeling and my personal goal is that all other regulations should be moved from government to the sector, because we are in the global world, in the global market, and this transparency now and technology and digitalization helps us to make regulation, self-regulation much more efficient and easy than any other governmental control. Government role is to help. Government role is to finance from our taxes the promotion of a country and destinations, but they do not have to make any kind of strict regulation on business environment. Only if it's not really on the level of life security or something like that.
Yes, but at the same moment, I think that on the level of recommendation of some advisors, it should originally goes from the government, and then yes, on the level of business regulation, only like this. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Colleagues, who else would like to ask questions? We still have about 10 minutes of time for answers and questions and answers. Microphone is open. We have 46 participants. As I see on my screen, almost all over Ukraine, from different regions and from different businesses.
If I may just add one point then.
Yeah.
So as part of the new process, as I said, and this is going up online now, we have always allowed central public authorities, like the NTO of Ukraine, to issue the stamp to subsidiary public authorities, let's say at a more local level. So you could, for example, offer the stamp to Visit Kiev, let's say that this is the name, or the municipality of Kiev, as long as you abide by the same protocols. And this way you can allow some form of control on a more local level, control without certification, if you see what I mean. Now, the other thing that we would like all companies to know, and also industry associations, is that if you are a parent company and you abide by the terms and conditions, you may offer the stamp to your subsidiary companies, your brands, for example. And if you are a travel industry association gathering many members, and you have the stamp already, and you are in compliance with the terms and conditions, you may also offer it to your members. And this is a way to kind of decentralize a little bit and to ensure, let's say, more closer control.
Thank you, Chris. I have another message from one of our colleagues. She is not with us in Zoom, but she is listening to us, or she is with Zoom, but she cannot turn on the video. And she would like to inform WTTC, as well as all other participants, that they developed and soon they will apply to WTTC two new protocols from Ukraine. One about enogastronomic tourism type, and one for rural tourism, green tourism, and hospitality in green rural areas. And what is that? I'm trying to... and one scientific scenario about this safety regulations. But I didn't get this last point. But regarding two first, we have a project of European Union in Ukraine about geographical indications. This project started almost 2 years ago, and the fourth component of this project is routes of wine and taste in Ukraine, which continue routes of wine and taste in European Union. And different producers of local products and wines are connected now region by region in Ukraine and create associations. It was a pilot project in Odessa region and Zakarpattia region, which is most western part of Ukraine, and Odessa in the south. And now they are actually with us. Also in Zoom, I can see their logo. This project unite more than 15 participants, 15 producers of local products and wine, and also accommodations and tour operators who promote this type of gastronomic tourism, and they want to add your list of protocols by this special type of standards for them. So you will get it soon. Okay, I still propose to ask questions if someone have.
if not, even we are there, I mean, even after this Zoom meeting, we are available. You can send us emails, you have our contact details, and happy to jump on a call with anyone that has questions, more detailed on the protocols and the stamp and the new process. So we are really here to help where we can, and we have already a very well working relationship. So we're really happy to answer any questions you may have now or later. And as I said, Chris and myself and the whole WTTC team is at your disposal, and for anything you need. So please be our guest.
Okay, I just will add that all protocols are available and open for downloading in Ukrainian on the website of NTOU, NTO-Ukraine.org. You go to COVID Hub, and then you find the WTTC Global Initiative Safe Travels page, and you may put your company in small application form. You may download the stamp itself, you may download the protocols and read all conditions and terms on behalf of WTTC. Please feel free to write, to ask. And using this opportunity of today's meeting, I would like to announce our next meeting on Monday, 13th of July, with Crowdrift, who helps destination management organizations to promote themselves with user content. It will be at 2 o'clock, so all of you are invited. And now I would like to thank Lola for your time, thank Chris for your time. I'm sure that it is interesting for all. The record will be available on our page on Facebook, and much more people will have possibility to listen it and watch it. Thank you again, and have a nice time in Spain.
Thank
you very much.
Likewise, looking forward to seeing you in Ukraine and trying all those wonderful wines I'm sure you have. Thank you very much.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.